looks fairly promising, and it makes you wonder, is this what we need to break our series of bad luck? Interesting box. And interesting cards, my goodness. Feels nice. Good jokers. A very fitting ace, nice face cards and coloring to the face cards. My oh my. I hope nobody here has arachnophobia. But besides all of that, I hope your day has been well and that you're ready to relax and play some Solitaire. We continue with a very interesting deck. Let's give this deck 3 more shuffles and begin game number 1. And you can bet we'll have some spider stories coming up. So don't be too squeamish, my friend. Here we go. First draw. A nice looking 10 with the diamonds. And come to think of it, they should have made the diamonds more like this back design. But it still looks pretty nice so far. Has a nice waxy and silky texture to them. And that is a pretty darn good start. Perfect. We already put down our king. More plays to come and lined up. And that is such an ace of spades. Like, seriously. Very cool, but at the same time, a little bit, what's the word? Creepy, crawly, along those lines. So double 9s, double kings, and double 5s. Oh, a little late, but my prediction tonight is a win with 2 fat stacks. Let's see if that comes to fruition. As we have a pretty solid start with our spider deck. A red 7 would be perfect, as well as a black jack. And it looks like next turn we will get our black jack, but beyond that, we'll have to wait and see. I really enjoy these face cards so far. And I just realized how many of you thought that this would be a Marvel Black Widow deck. I bet you have to admit you got caught. Anyway, let's see if we can make anything of this with some unusual spacing. Nowhere for that 9. There's somewhere for that 2. 3. 4. Oh wait. 4. 5. 4. And I think that's it. adjust every play from her hand possible. Nowhere for that 9, 10, or queen. No plays left to make. Not a bad start. Just a little bit short. I really enjoy this dark red and black contrast on the back design. That makes sense. Triple jacks to the negative stats. And let's slide into a casino shuffle. That feels good. And seriously, these cards have a very nice texture on the sides and on the facings. It's almost as if it is a David Blaine deck, but just barely not as good. Very nice cut. And as we get into our second game, let's talk about some spiders. So, when I say spider, the first thing I think of is Hunter x Hunter and their spiders. And then the second thing I think of as we receive triple eights is Black Widows. Now, let me know if Black Widows are common where you live. Where I live in California, they are very common. And I do not enjoy them whatsoever. I was told growing up, the shinier the spider, the more venomous it would be. And these little bastards really have a strong shine to them. And then their butts, their big, bulging butts just really make my skin crawl, in a sense. Spiders don't freak me out or make me all heebie-jeebie, but just knowing that Black Widows are fairly common, and they have the power to potentially be fatal, is not too fun. And especially since they like darker, humid spots. Not too welcoming. And now we have triple sixes. Speaking of unwelcoming. So my first encounter with a black spider, a Black Widow, from what I remember, was when I was about 5 years old. And my household was always super cautious about spiders. Okay. So, I was in the backyard cleaning a bit, and I noticed, right, more context. So every once in a while, I would play in the dirt with Hot Wheels as a kid. And it would be pretty fun. But I knew where I played it was fairly safe besides from like worms or whatever. So at this point I was just going around my backyard cleaning in some unfamiliar areas. Remember, it's a much bigger backyard when you're younger. And I wanted to play in the water with a sprinkler. We had one of those old-ish style sprinklers. It was probably made in the 1980s. Heavy piece of metal, faded from the sun. And it would go like click, 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 or click, 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 then quick clicks. Those types of sprinklers. And my father was in the backyard cleaning as well, and when I picked it up, he said freeze, as I did. And unbeknownst to me, I had picked up a sprinkler with, let's give this a second. So first fat stack. And let's wait for that one. I had picked up a sprinkler with just about 7 black widows under it. So not just one, but the whole bunch. And it made sense. The sprinkler was flipped down. It was a tight spot, very moist in the dark. So as soon as he said throw it, I chucked that thing. I was holding it like, well, that's the ground. I was holding it like this and just went as quick as I could. And as soon as it hit the ground, I think they kind of froze in place and didn't bother. Oh wait, that play didn't happen yet. That was one play too early. Anyway, it hit the ground and those things froze. And out of curiosity, I went to go take a peek as we receive 2 fat stacks and a win on our second game. There it is. So we hit my prediction. Let's see if we can make it any more. And those little bastards were so shiny. Their butts were so round and red. And they are quick moving. And just the proportions are just very unsettling to me. So that's when I first remember encountering some black widows. And as a kid, a lot of my, I guess fear-mongering, or whatever the term is, where you're taught from fear to avoid doing things. As we have all of our spades in order, ace to king, with all of our clubs. Next, the hearts and the diamonds. Just such a nice color scheme with this deck. Victory shuffle, take 1. Oh no, it kind of chunked out, so it's not going to be too great. Good start. And half the deck. Here's the chunk coming up. You know what? I think if it didn't chunk, we might have split that perfectly. But all the reds in order with a good portion of the blacks. On to game number 3. Back to our extended story time. I was told as as a very young child to stay away from dark corners, damp spots, sticking my hands in areas I couldn't see, for the fear of spiders and black widows, which is a good lesson for the most part. I think it was done well, but I'm surprised I don't have, what's the word? Arachnophobia. So the stories I was told was that back in the 70s, my grandmother, my only grandmother I should say, so I'm just gonna speak in the tense as when I was a kid. There was a bush that's near her front door that's very puffy and well kept, but black widows love to reside in it. So during the 70s, she was maintaining her bush, getting rid of all the loose twigs and etc. While she was bit by a black widow right on her hand. And my grandmother came from South America, Peru. So my thinking now is she is not native to this region, nor the species, so she's going to have a more severe reaction to a bite. So she was hospitalized for about 4 days, high fever and lots of issues, but she was fine in the end. But it was made to be as if she was on her deathbed, which I don't know, but you get the potential hyperbolization of that. And then in that same bush, at my grandmother's house, my mother was doing some work for my grandmother. Then she was bit by a black widow. And unlike my grandmother's bite, after 15 minutes she was fine. An hour and throughout the night, no signs of a fever. And she was perfectly okay the next day besides just a painful initial bite. So it was either you're gonna be sent to the hospital or you'll be just fine. And I kind of rode the line being in between that, so I wouldn't just have a crippling fear of spiders. Alright, my second encounter with these disgusting little creatures in our ecosystem. Ooh, there we go. And why not? Let's get that out of here. As I said earlier, I enjoyed playing with Hot Wheels in the mud at my house during the daytime. So one time, as we receive our third fat stack of the night, we're doing it well, my friend, keeping the momentum up. I expanded my territory into an unknown land of the backyard. It was a cinder block brick decorative on near the fence near a cedar tree. Oh no, is that it? I think we might have just wrapped up this game. Let's make a double check just to be sure, as there's nowhere for that 7, 10, 4, jack, and lastly 5. We add a fat stack, but that is is it. So I wanted to go to the cinder blocks because it would be a different terrain, a different texture. And I thought, I should be fine, right? Triple eights, triple jerks. These dudes are adding themselves to the negative stats. So upon playing with the bricks, I decided to move one and pick it up. And it was probably about this big, and with holes probably that size on each side. So I lifted it, threw it. No, I lifted it, and when I was lifting it, I saw that there were grooves in the ground from where it was before. And in those grooves, I saw one spider, Black Widow, scurrying off under the next cinder block. And then, on the block I was holding, there was a tingling Black Widow. And as soon as I saw that, I chucked that cinder block and ran to the house. I wasn't taking any chances. Because come to think of it, I was a fairly unsupervised child. And that wouldn't have been good if I got bit and passed out and just bit up the whole time. So that was my second encounter, and I believe there are male versions of Black Widows. I'm not sure their name, but if you don't know, they don't have that fat ass like the regular ones. They have more of a typical but sharp spider build. So I'd see lots of those around the house. And just kind of stay away from those areas. And what sucks compared to most little like brown recluse spiders is that if you spray a brown recluse with Windex, it dies. But if you spray a Black Widow with Windex, it gets pissed. And when it gets pissed, it starts running. And when it starts running, you start running as we have triple fours to start this one. So many encounters like that growing up. Worth noting, I lost my fear of spiders in general through my brother. As a kid, I'm sure most of us have seen that Harry Potter scene with that huge spider, the movie Arachnophobia, and just many other like books about spiders, TV programs about spiders, and so on. So when I heard spider, I got the heebie-jeebies. Until my brother, one day, he came back from high school. He looked at me and said, "Are you scared of spiders?" And I said, "I guess." So then, where we live in our backyard, there'll always be a bunch of daddy long legs just hanging above the doors. So he went and grabbed one, and he put it on his hand, and he just watched it crawl up and down. He said, "See, there's nothing to be afraid about. They're not harmful. Most spiders can't hurt you because their fangs aren't large enough or strong enough to puncture human skin." And by the way, I bet you were not expecting this in tonight's episode. And if you have gotten to this point and you're still awake, just comment an emoji of a spider. Please. That'd be amazing. Anyway, so the spider was crawling up and down his hand. And my brother, I think he knew. That made sense to me. So $5 cost us. And we move on to our final game of the night. 3 fat stacks in with a win. One more chance at it. And I think my brother was fairly young too. And I think the story goes that he killed it with a rock at some point on accident. Accident, I suppose. And we had a nasty one here. Triple kings and triple tens with quite a few doubles. Alright, lots of talking in this one, and we'll continue that. So more of a hangout type video. But I hope that's all well, my friend. I'll give this deck a quick rating. Very nice durability, texture, and feel. Design, for what it is superb front and back. Simplistic on the front, with a nice change in color for touch. So, great design, great texture, great handling and durability. Very good. In the front design, nothing bad, everything very good or great. And this deserves at least an 8.5 out of 10. One of our best yet, especially for dark decks. I always thought that was messed up. Being young and having a spider as a pet. But just because it's weird doesn't mean it's wrong. But still, kinda weird. Anyway, the last noteworthy stories about Black Widows and myself are triple queens not looking too promising. Throughout my high school, early college years, I would jump the fence to a baseball field nearby. Is it a crime? No. Did I feel bad about it? No. Did I get my practice in? You bet. But anyway, while jumping this fence, I would do it at nighttime because I enjoyed being in the dark. And I like practicing under poor circumstances and conditions. So when better conditions arrive, I would be more than prepared. So, going through these fields at night, it was kind of in the country, in a sense. And there would be lots of stray spiders just lurking around. And I knew that in the dugouts, there would be so many black widows just nestled, Nesquik, all around. And you just kind of knew where to keep your distance. As well, on the baseball field, there'd be many black widows just hiding in door paths, hanging right at face level. And I would always walk around with a flashlight as we have 555s, my goodness. And then you would see a black silhouette just growing bigger and you knew to stop. And this was at a couple high schools I'd go to at night. Actually, all 3 of them, come to think of it. And there were just so many of these fiends crawling around, making my life a little uncomfortable, but I was in their domain. But the closest I got to touching one was the one directly in my face, twice at was a black widow right here to my hand. And when I jumped down, I felt something, you know, when you just get that sixth sense, in a sense, and you just don't trust your surroundings. I had that feeling. So I looked my flashlight and I saw that black widow pretty much waving at me. I was like, oh, hell no. And I just kept on with my day. My night, I should say. I think those are, for the most part, my most frequent experiences with those 8-legged beasts. And I'd be curious to hear any of your spider stories. Of course, I have more, but I think that's enough for now. Okay. We are still alive, and we are on the brink of our 4th fat stack, if we get lucky. And it looks like we will at least get one more fat stack. 4th fat stack. And we are still alive. A black king would be perfect. Or a red 10. Those two work. And so does that. Okay. Let's wait for that actually. Okay, I guess I can go into another story real quick. My brother used to date this girl who lived in the country a bit. And that is officially it. No 4 of hearts, no 2 of diamonds, and nowhere else to build, but a very solid night. So let's clean it up and see what was left unturned. Anyway, this girl lived fairly deep into the country, and he told me it wasn't uncommon to see a spider that was bigger than your hand. And she had this habit, and nothing too special unturned, or this routine of encountering large spiders. And so what her family would do, remember, in the country, is that they would shoot the spiders because they were so big. And I thought, damn, I kind of want to see that, but at the same time, I don't. And that is it, my friend, for tonight. It was a fun one. This deck sure did deliver. And I hope you enjoyed. You know I did. I hope you have yourself a relaxing remainder of your night. Probably try putting on another video so you're not left thinking about those little arachnids. But besides all of that, until we meet again, stay safe and eat your fruits and vegetables.